Welcome to another episode of the Orange Nerd Show here on OG55. I am joined by Mr. Seymour Duck. Today on the Orange Nerd Show, we're talking all about that Hulu deal. Disney finally owns the entirety of Hulu, but Comcast might not be too happy with the outcome. But we're going to talk about it up next on the Orange Nerd Show. Let's go. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of the Orange Nerd Show. Here on the Orange Nerd Show, we discuss everything except the theme parks. We're talking film, streaming, corporate side, all that good stuff here on the Orange Nerd Show. And today we're talking about that Hulu deal that was finally closed. Disney now owns 100% of the streaming service. We're also going to dive into a little bit about this Warner Brothers news of them splitting up the company. We have a lot to discuss today, but I got my good friend, Mr. Seymour Duck, with me. Mr. Duck, it's always good to see you in studio, brother. How you doing, man?
Hello. Glad to be back and nerd out with you. And also a face reveal that's not for members.
Yes. That's very true. Yeah, this is the first time non-members are actually seeing Seymour's beautiful face. This is the face reveal of Mr. Seymour Duck in studio. Seymour, it's always a pleasure having you on, brother. If you could let everybody home know where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, you can find me on X at Mr. Seymour Duck, or my website for all the other social media links, mrduck.social.
There he is. All right, so we got two cool videos. We got a John Campea video, which is like 5 or 6 minutes, I think, and we have Bob Iger on CNBC talking this as well. So we're gonna talk. We're gonna break down both of these videos. So first, we're gonna start off with Mr. John Campea. I've been a fan of John Campea for a really long time. I've made no bones
same here.
Right, he's great. I really like him. I know he's done a lot of work with Christian Harloff, which I've said many times here on the channel. I love Christian Harloff. I'm a huge fan of his, but they did a lot of work together at AMC and then Collider. But Campea, he breaks down with Robert Burnett, who is another gentleman I respect a whole lot, breaks down this Disney Hulu Comcast deal. Seymour, you know the drill, man. We're going to play the video, and then, if there's anything that you want to opine and comment on, just say, hey, OG, pause the video. So you ready?
Yeah, and he's a fellow Canadian.
Exactly. Fellow Canadian.
That has the flag right there.
Exactly. So you can see it right there in the bottom left. 100%. All right, here we go.
Let's move on to this, shall we? You guys will remember back when Hulu was created, it was kind of this, conglomeration of various companies that were going, and multiple studios went in on it together to create a place online that they can then put episodes of their network TV shows. And it was grand. Now, a few years ago, Disney kind of consolidated power with one holdout, Comcast, NBC Universal. They still owned 1/3 of it. Now, Disney, at this time, took over controlling interest of Hulu. They owned 66% or whatever it was. So they owned the controlling interest. They could manage it and control it. But Comcast still owned about 1/3. About 2 years ago then, Comcast and Disney made a deal where Disney would buy out Comcast, their remaining 1/3, but it had to go to mediation to determine how much that was going to be worth. Well, it's come in now, and I'm sure Comcast isn't happy today.
Now, here's the thing. I want to dive into this a little bit, Seymour. There was a lot of talk with this whole thing, right? On social media and on YouTube, right? A lot of talk about how this was gonna cripple the Mouse House. Another thing besides Epic Universe that was gonna bring the Mouse House to its knees, remember? And how they might owe up to what was it? Some people were saying up to like another $5 billion on top of the
I've seen reports up to $14 to $15 billion.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, an additional on top of the already paid of the let's just say $9 billion, around roughly just above $8 billion that they already paid. There was a floor value that they paid that they both agreed to, but then some people were saying an additional, it can be up to 14 to 15, and I'm like, huh? I'm like, I don't think so, especially because in part of their deal, Disney gets a discount if Comcast doesn't invest in Hulu while they're part of the deal, while the deal is still in motion.
Right.
And because of that gave them the significant discount for the value of Hulu. So you had the floor value, but then the additional one got taken off a lot of things down the list because Disney was investing in it and Comcast didn't. Comcast pulled out all their content and put zero investment in Hulu. Disney tried to not push Hulu too much to make the value go up. It was obvious when they didn't want to use Hulu for Disney Plus International. So they didn't want Hulu to be like significantly better in order for the value to go up, but also because they've been investing it consistently, they also get a discount. So they found a middle ground, and because of that, and I had a feeling because of that, they weren't going to pay that much extra.
Yeah, we talked about it. We talked about it here on the channel like a long time ago, months and months ago. And we talked about these other creators were talking about like, oh, Disney's going to owe another, 10 billion or whatever, 14 billion. And we were like, no, it's not going to happen. And here we are, right?
If Comcast actually put out content and invested in them, then I would agree they probably would have paid Comcast more, but they didn't. And that was part of the deal. The call put deal they had, they said they get a discount. And I think that's the reason why they didn't pay, because they got that significant discount.
Yeah, well said.
Because the dollar figure that Disney's had to pay them out is about $4.5 billion less than they were expecting and hoping for. This comes from the folks at Variety. In December of 2023, in an initial payment towards the Hulu buyout, Disney agreed to pay $8.61 billion to Comcast. That represented 1/3 of the $27.5 billion guaranteed floor value for Hulu that was set when the companies entered in their agreement in 2019. The two sides last year entered into arbitration to determine the final price tag. Now, that number has been calculated. Pursuant to the contractual appraisal process that was completed on June 9th, 2025, an additional $438.7 million is payable by Disney. Comcast sought an additional $5 billion payout by.
I mean, that's a huge gap, right, Seymour? I mean, that is absolutely wild. Comcast wanted an additional $5 billion. We heard on YouTube that, like you said, people were speculating 10, 15 billion.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, come on,
Yeah, and so over here it did state 8.61 billion for the floor value, the 1/3 of 27.5 billion.
Right.
But the thing that I find fascinating is, like, I have to give Bob Chapek props, because I think it's because of him, right? Investing so much into Hulu at the time and Comcast did not, that it made that get that discount. Bob Chapek invested so much into Hulu, and Hulu is the one brand I think now Bob Iger is now focusing on quality versus quantity, but with general entertainment, it's much easier to get quality content at a cheaper price on the Hulu side with FX, 20th Century Animation, all that, right? Compared to the big budget project that Disney has done. And I think the two merging together, they create this perfect synergy that fills the void when Disney can't create too much big budget content for quality because they don't want to ruin the quality. Right. Hulu can come in and give that quality like Netflix does with a lot of their shows, right? Like Squid Games. But yeah, it's a perfect match. And, I think it's Bob Chapek. It's the reason why they get this significant discount. So props on him. I know he made a lot of mistakes, but I think he was the one who actually wanted to merge Hulu in the first place. Bob Iger didn't want to do it. Bob Iger actually was like against it. But look at here. Now we're here full circle, and his Bob Chapek's plan worked out.
Yeah, it did. It did. A lot of Disney fans, I know a lot of parks people, used to give Chapek a lot of shit. And like you said, he did make mistakes. He was not a perfect CEO by any means, far, far from it. But I think a lot of fans threw the baby out with the bathwater. Chapek did do some good things, and he did have some good ideas. And actually, a lot of the stuff that Bob Iger was like from the outside when he was, watching from the outside, Bob Iger would say, no, I don't agree with Chapek on that. But then when Bob came back in 2022, a lot of that stuff he ended up keeping. So, exactly. Right. I mean, that's a testament to maybe Chapek's ideas weren't as bad as people thought they were. Now, again, he wasn't a good fit for Disney. I do think that a Disney CEO is a different kind of beast. If Chapek was running like an insurance company or like a Pepsi or something, I think he'd be fine. But Disney requires a different kind of CEO, kind of a guest-facing CEO, a little charisma, and also a Hollywood kind of person that can kind of smooth. And Chapek was not any of that. So he had his problems, but a lot of his ideas are still being utilized today, and that says something. So, we got to give Chapek a fair shake here.
By Disney. So, in going into the last round about what the actual final price tag would be, Comcast was looking to get $5 billion more, and they ended up through the court and arbitration getting 20% of that. No, 10% of that. Less than 10% of that, getting $438.7 million. Not a great day for them, but Rob, it didn't say in the article, but I wonder if Comcast was looking at a value appraisal of Hulu now that it's a part of Disney Plus and now that it's all kind of been merged in. Whereas I'm just guessing that the arbitrator said, nah, man, you bought it when it wasn't that. You got to pay for what the fair value was at that.
Yes.
So, okay, that's an interesting theory by Campia. What are your thoughts on that, Seymour? That Comcast was sort of taking it as the here and now, the bundled version of Hulu, but they didn't buy it. They didn't buy in now. They bought in before when it was a different situation, right?
Oh, definitely. They definitely saw the writing on the wall. Even when you go on CNBC, you get a lot of people coming in from Comcast, ex-employees from Comcast, correspondents from Comcast, saying that Hulu is the gold standard. When they were, usually we're seeing CNBC trashing Disney at times. When it came to Hulu, suddenly it's the gold standard. Everything's great because they saw the writing on the wall, the synergy that's going to come. Because before they never expected it to, merge as one. But then Bob Chapek came, and then this new deal with the call and put, and it came, and I don't think they saw like the merge. I don't think, and I don't think they thought it was going to be successful. But now they're like, okay, maybe we should get a little bit more because it's now becoming successful. And you can see like even in the Nielsen reports, right? The watch time for Hulu has been increasing significantly now because the synergy of Disney Plus and Hulu, the engagement is now much better. Instead of having two separate apps, which is nerve-wracking, it's better just to have one app. And I'm sure Disney has the data internationally. And I'm sure for Star Brand, I'm sure it's going to get rebranded to Hulu now because they've been waiting for this deal to be done. Because nobody knows what Star Brand. That's like an Indian brand, and that's been sold off as well to an Indian company. But yeah, I'm sure it's going to be changed to Hulu. But yeah, they have the data, and they can see internationally that engagement has increased when they brought in more general entertainment. So I'm sure that's what they're seeing as well. And I'm sure Comcast also saw that as well. Like, well, Disney Plus is now more successful because of Hulu. We should be getting more money for that because we were there from the start. But yeah, they're not getting it. The deal has already been done. Everything's been signed.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, Seymour. I was told that any success on the Hulu side doesn't count because Disney bought them. So I don't know. That's
I mean, Disney bought Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar. Those are not Disney.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. I know we talked about this before, where it's like Universal bought DreamWorks. So does any success with DreamWorks, does that not count because they bought it? It wasn't a Universal thing from day one. It's that narrative Hulu is absolutely absurd to me, but it's out there.
Yeah, it's
therefore.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, brother.
I was just gonna say, like, you look at the theme parks, none of their IPs are like majority of the IPs are not even theirs. If you go to Universal, when you go to Disney, it's all theirs. Exception maybe Bluey coming in once in a while.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But that's all of Universal success, but for some reason, anything that Disney acquires or does, that doesn't count for them. It's crazy.
You're getting another, hey, nothing to sneeze at, $438 million. Great, but a little bit less than the $5 billion they were wanting. Rob, what did you think about the results of the arbitration? How are you feeling today for Comcast? And here's another thing. How do you think we as television viewers are going to see changes now to Hulu. Was Disney being held back from doing some things because there was still an ownership question? I don't know. How do you see this?
No, I think they were. It was ownership. Look, possession's 9/10 of the law, right? I think, and again, you go into arbitration, it's always a crapshoot, especially if it's a binding arbitration. You never know exactly how it's going to come out. I was in an arbitration once. I thought it was a slam dunk. It turned out it wasn't. And you, like you said, like you pointed out, the value of things change over time, and what something is worth today might not be the case tomorrow. And I think this arbitration, while Comcast is probably not happy, it sounds to me like it was. Look, I'd like $5 billion too.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
The reality of the situation is sometimes you can't always get what you want, but sometimes you just might find you get what you need. And it seemed fair to me. I mean, I think overall it seemed like this was what was supposed to happen. But I'm sure Comcast not happy.
Now, what do you think is going to happen here? Obviously, Disney's made a lot of moves with Hulu. They've been putting them in packages with Disney Plus. They put them in packages now with ESPN. They've got it in a package with
I do want to say one
HBO
thing.
Max.
Yeah, I got
Do
you.
you think?
When he was saying that, do you think Disney was pulling back because the deal wasn't finalized? And I really do think so, because I think they were just testing the waters with Hulu, but I am sure what's going to happen next is going to be a dramatic change. I'm sure they're going to discontinue the app, and I'm sure that Hulu is going to be fully merged into Disney Plus, but they're still going to use the Hulu brand. And then internationally, like I mentioned, the Star brand, they can now finally, because before, right, they didn't want to basically prop up the value of it before too much if they
Right.
were going to make this deal. So internationally, they rebranded it as Star, and technically that's like some way of, oh, it's not Hulu, but it is still having Hulu content, but it's not Hulu because the studios make it, not Hulu makes it. FX, 20th Century. So yeah, there's a lot of things like that. But yeah, it's great. I've been loving the Star Hub. It is the primary reason why I still have Disney Plus. Without that, I probably wouldn't keep it. I don't even use Netflix as much anymore. The last thing I watched was Squid Game. But besides that, not really. But Disney Plus, because of the general entertainment side, that
Right.
is huge. It's going to be a huge success for them. And now they're going to push forward. And even a few of my investor friends who are like iffy on Disney or who owns Disney, they're like, Iger is back. This is the move that needs to happen. And this is Disney that you're going to see in the future. And it's going to make a dramatic change. And the stock went up like 3% that day as well, because people are like hyped about it. It was 52-week high. It's basically gone a reversal in the stock. It went flat and then down and then back up again. And now 52-week high. And people are bullish in it because of this. And I've always been saying that Disney is now like maturing as a company, evolving, right? Becoming a company that's entertainment for all and not just for, before in the past, it's about, it's for kids. No, it's for everyone.
Right.
And people will recognize that Hulu is Disney. Even though a lot of people on X would say otherwise, no, Hulu is Disney, just like how Star Wars is now Disney, Marvel is Disney, Pixar is Disney. Hulu is the brand that will stay with Disney for the coming years.
Well, here's the thing though, Seymour. This is what I've come to realize with people on X or on YouTube, is that Star Wars and Marvel and all that, they're only Disney when they don't do well. Do you understand? So it's Disney Star Wars when the movie or it's not. There's not good news out there to report. But the minute there's good news out there, suddenly it doesn't count, and suddenly that's not Disney. They bought that, right? So that's what I've come to realize. That there's a lot of goalposts moving with this stuff.
Yeah, and I see that, and I see how a lot of people would be like, "Well, don't mix Hulu content with Disney. I have kids," and it's like, okay, what's your alternative? Netflix. You're going to get the same thing. And then
Yes.
I'm hearing like, well, Disney's woke, and I'm like, go on Netflix and actually watch the TV shows and actually watch the movie. They have more diverse content in there than Disney has. More like you go even for kids, right? Disney is like real relaxed with it. But if you go on Netflix, you can go on the kids content and you get a cow that is non-binary on there. But nobody wants to talk about that because again, it's very successful. So it's nothing. But yet it has the exact same thing that makes Disney apparently a failure, Netflix a success.
So the non-binary cow cartoon has been a pretty big hit for Netflix.
There's like 5 seasons.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, that's
yeah,
wild.
and it's in the kids section of Netflix, but nobody cares about it. If you go watch TV shows like Sex Education, that is, you go watch that. It's no kid should be watching it, but it's like a TV show for kids, but yet for more adult themed, and it's very adult themed, but yet nobody cares about it. It's diverse, it has everything in there that people will say it's DEI wokeness, their term, but yet nobody cares about it because it was massively successful.
Well, because if you the whole argument, and I've said this so many times, but the whole argument with that group is go woke, go broke. So the minute you have something that's woke, right, quote unquote woke, that does well, that completely runs counter to the narrative that if you do a woke thing, it's going to flop. The non-binary cow, this group would say that is a woke show, but it's gone 5 seasons. So they can't go for that show because the minute they bring that forth to their audience and be like, yeah, it's a woke show, and they say it's gone 5 seasons, well, what happened? I thought this thing was supposed to go broke because whenever you go woke, that's what happens. So they cherry pick this stuff, right? Barbie was the wokest movie that Hollywood has ever done. Remember all the narratives, Seymour, leading up to Barbie? But the minute that thing started to make money, suddenly all that stuff fell off. No, suddenly now Barbie's not woke. Super Mario, woke. I remember all the Peach Skywalker stuff. Remember all that? The movie made $1 billion. You don't hear about any of the woke stuff anymore, right? They cannot bring up the woke if the thing does well because it runs counter to their entire argument. Their entire shtick depends on woke stuff going broke. So it's crazy.
There are some things that maybe Disney had been held back from doing because there was still that 1/3 ownership question that now that they can move forward with.
I think probably. I mean, look, we just see an example of the Predator animated film, Killer of Killers.
Right.
This is Hulu's now become an outlet for, say, 20th Century Studios, which is another subsidiary now of Disney, to put things out. And now they're creating, they're using IP that they own, and they're using Hulu as another extension.
So that animated Predator from Hulu side is doing really well. It's rated like over 90% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, nice.
On both sides.
So that's the Predator franchise, but it's animated?
Yes, it's animated.
So
and apparently it's really good. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm like, okay, it's not getting review bombed, so it must be actually doing really good.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it's a little bit older, I'm assuming, because Predator, like teens and young adults.
Oh yes, it's for older content. For older, mature audience. But that's what I like about it because now you're getting that, like I mentioned, you're getting that Hulu now. You can get more adult teams, but then also the kids side can get their side, and there are parental controls, so you can put it for each profile for each person, and it's already been set up when you first sign up. It's mandatory to do it right at front, and if you skip it, that is for you as a parent skipping those parental controls. Disney put all these safety nets in there. So, but I'm loving it because it's, and Hulu and I'm sure ESPN, they're all going to merge into one. And like I said, it's entertainment for all.
Yeah.
And like I said, I mentioned before, Hulu is the reason why I still keep Disney Plus. Right? I watch so many seasons of Family Guy on there, right?
Oh, bro, it's the best show. I love Family Guy.
And then and then it's like an American Dad as well. American Dad is actually, I like American Dad, and it's pretty funny, but it's like, I'm not going to go out of my way to watch it, but it's on Disney Plus. I'm not going to watch it. And then I'm like, oh crap, 5 seasons later, I watched it.
Yeah, man, that stuff is fantastic. I love it.
Of their own theatrical and Disney Plus platforms to exploit their IP, and with part ownership with someone else, Maybe they didn't have as much incentive to do that. Maybe they'll step it up because, you know, Hulu's been providing Paradise as a Hulu show. I think everybody really liked that. And I'd like to see Hulu as a platform that's going to exploit more of their IP that is more adult oriented. I think that's a great idea.
And you know what? This might be a little bit of karma for Comcast, although not nearly as much. Go back, if you will. If you guys will remember, a bunch of years ago, got announced that Disney had entered an agreement to buy Fox. Right? To buy a bunch of 20th Century and all that kind of stuff. I might not be remembering the exact numbers right, so forgive me, but the general gist was this. I think they made an agreement, Disney, to buy all that stuff for about 40 or 50 billion dollars. Right. Then Comcast came in and said, wait a minute, law says you got to be open to other offers. We'd like to offer you $60 billion. No, you know what? And I think, I have no proof of this. This is just me speculating, but I've always thought that Comcast never had any actual intention of buying 20th Century. They just did that because they knew Disney was committed to buying it. And at the end of the day, I think Disney ended up paying like 71 billion dollars. Yeah. Comcast, just through tomfuckery, ended up costing Disney 20 or 30 extra billion dollars that they never would have had to have paid if it wasn't.
What's up, Seymour?
I do want to state, though, that they did sell off a lot of the stuff back to Fox after the 70 billion.
Thank you.
And then they even sold off Star now, which is now a different entity with Reliance Industry and Viacom 18. So they got money for that as well. So there's a little like, and I think Sky as well. That was part of Fox. They sold off, but there was a lot of things that Disney was able to rectify by selling assets they didn't think they needed. And you know, like the debt right now, it's like around under 40 billion. So that 70 billion in debt is already like dramatically went down.
Yeah, no, you're right. And they had to, due to regulatory issues, they had to sell off all the sports stuff almost immediately. So it brought it down quite a bit. Absolutely. But yeah, Comcast, they were playing dirty, man. They were trying to hike that price up. It was corporate warfare for a while there. I think it was, like John was saying, it was like in 2019. It was a little while ago now, but you know, maybe this is a little bit of karma. I don't know.
For Comcast, just doing it for shits and giggles. And so I wonder if this might, you know, be a little bit of karma.
I felt like that too.
It wouldn't surprise me at all.
They still come out on top, though. I mean, so good for them. We want to take a second to thank us.
All right. So before I move on to our next video, I want to give a big shout out to John Campia. As Seymour said, fellow Canadian, you know, we love Campia. He does a lot of great work. I'm a huge fan. Seymour's a huge fan of his channel. So I will be linking his channel down below. Make sure that you check him out. He doesn't do a lot of theme park stuff. I know we have a huge theme park audience here, but if you're into film, Star Wars, Marvel, just nerdy stuff in regards to the industry, Hollywood, Campy is your guy. He's been around forever. He knows his stuff, and his rants are epic, absolutely epic. All right, so let's go ahead and move on now to CNBC. This is going to be very interesting. So, all right. So CEO Bob Iger on Disney gaining full control of Hulu. We are, quote, very pleased, end quote, with this. So we're going to dive into some CNBC. Seymour, you ready?
Yep.
Let's rock and roll, buddy. Here we go.
CNBC exclusive is Bob Iger, of course, Disney CEO. Good to have you back on, Bob. You know,
and just full disclosure, Bob is our boss. He does hand out the special access to Seymour and I. So we will be very nice to Mr. Bob Iger because we don't want to lose our special access.
Yes, we'll be the yes men.
100%, 100%. Of course, we're just kidding, but
438 million is a lot less than many of your shareholders were at least concerned. I don't know if you were concerned that you'd have to pay. And I'm curious, was that the case? Did you have more money earmarked potentially? And if so, does it give you an opportunity to spend it elsewhere?
Well, let me start, David, by saying that this is a business, our streaming business, that lost $5 billion in the year prior to my coming back. And we're going to earn over $1 billion this year. So $4 billion in the year prior to my coming back. We're going to earn over $1 billion this year. So we've got a $5 billion turnaround. And this step is the first big step in the direction of turning this into a real growth business for the company. We were prepared, if necessary, to pay more for this, but the third-party appraiser appraised it at a price that was closer to our evaluation or the bank that was evaluating this business for us. Had the bank, the third-party appraiser, come up with a number that was closer to Comcast, this could have cost us $5 billion more. So obviously, we're very pleased with this result, but now we're focused on doing what we intended to do once we gain full control of this. And that's basically to put these apps together seamlessly, to create an experience for the consumer that's easier to use, easier to buy, to increase engagement, to lower churn, to grow subs, and ultimately to...
That's kind of what you were saying, right, Seymour?
Yeah. Like I mentioned before, it's frustrating. Why would you want to have two apps? Like, imagine if Netflix did that. They did it for like teens and kids, and then everyone else a separate app. That would be frustrating.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, this is gonna help the Disney streaming service out like crazy, because you're right. You want it all in one, man. I don't want to have to go and watch my family content on Disney Plus and go to another app to get some adult stuff. I don't want to do all that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the proof's in the pudding. Like, you see the results with the Nielsen's. Family Guy, Bob's Burger. It's like up there now within the Hulu side, because the Hulu is now on Disney Plus. And I'm sure it's going to even get more now, because they're going to force those users from Hulu to go into it, because I don't think a lot of people still know about it, right? And I'm sure it's only like $1 more to get Disney Plus and Hulu together instead of just having Hulu. So you might as well get both. And it's already there. They're just going to merge it, and the operating expenses will go down, because the marketing and everything they have to do will now just be for Hulu. And if they rebrand it for international, right, just for Hulu, right? So they can market it that way and make it easier, and then don't have to pay for a second streaming service. There was no need for that.
Yeah. No, well said. 100%, Seymour.
Consolidate more and to save some money in terms of the operation. So we're very pleased with this result.
I would imagine you would be, given it is, again, far less than perhaps certainly our parent company Comcast was hoping that they would get. Although at the end, it's
a little salty there, huh? I kind of sense a little salt. I don't know. What say you, Seymour?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I find it ironic that he's on here saying that he got a better deal than Comcast on a Comcast network.
Yes, that is kind of funny. And this might be a good thing when that Comcast is eventually, CNBC is spinning off, because you and I have long said the situation at CNBC is ridiculous. To have Disney's biggest competitor out there reporting on Disney financial news and speculating, I always felt like, look, within the parameters of the law, they didn't. Comcast has done nothing wrong, right? Obviously, they can do this. I just find it a little dirty that this is Disney's biggest competitor, and honestly, the biggest financial news network out there. And CNBC, they can move market. I mean, it's a big entity out there, and to sit there and be able to kind of spin these narratives and be Disney's biggest rival, I think it was just kind of gross. I like the fact that they're spinning this off into its own little company, and I think we're going to get more fair reporting on CNBC now. Yeah. So that's a good thing, I think. Yeah, absolutely.
And you're going to see it because of the advertisers, everyone coming in now. They're going to have to get their money for it. So they're, whoever pays the most money, they're even if you look in the background, right, you see IBM and GM in there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
They get their special access.
They do, absolutely. And speaking of special access, do not forget to pick up Bob Iger's book, Ride of a Lifetime. It's now on sale, $28. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Still almost $9 billion for them in terms of the overall stake. You mentioned direct-to-consumer. Last quarter, which was only a few weeks back, you delivered $336 million in operating income from direct-to-consumer. You mentioned Hulu now being a part of overall this plan. So what do you do once you own it? What do you actually... what is the consumer going to see perhaps that's different, Bob, than currently in terms of the offering you're making to them?
Well, we've already bundled the apps in a way that is, I think, really easy to use with ingesting the Hulu product onto the Disney Plus product. But obviously, this is a step in the direction of putting these apps together fully, making basically not only a seamless experience for the consumer, but as I said earlier, essentially a one-app purchase.
Right.
And that's clearly important for us because with a combination of the great quality branded programming on Disney Plus and with the great value that Hulu
if you can
provides
pause
with
here.
not only
Yeah, I got you.
volume.
This chart is what I wanted to see, right? At this chart, they're at the 52-week high. You can see that it went flat and then went down and they got reversal, and the Hulu news just pushed it back up.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's doing some numbers for sure. Absolutely. I mean, there were, not too long ago it was like $80 a share or something like that. So
Yeah. You can see right there. Yeah, $80. But yeah, this is the moment that all my investor friends are saying Bob Iger is back, Hulu. But the only issue is he can't stay forever.
well, yeah, exactly. And that's a whole other thing. Like, who's gonna replace him, right?
In terms of general entertainment, but quality. This is a great combination, and this is, again, a big step in the direction of us enabling all of this, and also turning Hulu into a more global brand as part of the Disney Plus offering. And then in addition to that, we've got ESPN coming with a direct-to-consumer product toward the end of this year and at the end of this fiscal year. And obviously, when we do that, we'll put out a great bundle for the consumer, which will enable the consumer to buy all three and have a seamless experience between Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN.
Right, as well. Listen, there's been plenty of other news,
just
not
wanted to
necessarily
pause
related to
there. Yeah,
Disney.
gotcha.
Yesterday, though, one.
I do believe that going forward, it's going to be either you have Disney Plus or you want Disney Plus and sports. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah. No,
It's
absolutely.
simple as that. And you're going to get a discount if you get both.
Yeah. They'll give us these crazy bundles and stuff. You'll get deals on it. Absolutely.
Warner Brothers Discovery announcing it will split its company. It's not long ago, of course, Comcast also splitting off its cable networks, including our own, into a new company called Versant. You and I sat down almost 2 years ago now in Sun Valley, where you'd indicated certainly you were looking closely at the possibility of divesting some of what you called non-core, but were some of your cable networks. You chose not to, Bob. It's a different direction than Warner Brothers has gone in or Comcast has gone in, and I'm curious as to why.
Well, you're right, David. 2 years ago, soon after I returned to Disney, I put everything on the table and asked the team to evaluate, one, whether we should buy Hulu or whether we should sell Hulu, whether we should sell our linear television networks or whether we should hold on to them. And after a pretty lengthy process internally and really taking a long look at what these properties could mean to us long term, we decided that the best course for us to take was to not only hold on to Hulu and buy it in its entirety, but also to hold on to the linear television networks and to integrate them seamlessly with our streaming business. Because what that has enabled us to do is, one, aggregate revenue, both on the sub fee side and on the advertising side. There are still enough linear television subscribers to generate a significant amount of revenue in both cases, in advertising and in subscription fees.
And we also have to remember, too, Bob Iger, the whole reason why Bob Iger is the CEO at Disney, he came from when Michael Eisner decided to buy ABC back in, I think it was like 96, if I'm not mistaken, in and around 96, I believe. Cap City's ABC, they acquired ABC and ESPN in that deal. But that's how Bob Iger got involved with Disney, was through that purchase. So there is a ABC connection here. This is how Bob Iger got started. So I do believe there is a little bit of what's the word for it? Like this, like I don't want to say nostalgia, but like this is his roots. So I can kind of understand why maybe Iger would be a little hesitant to kind of offload these. But am I off base with that, Seymour?
No, I agree, and also because Disney is well positioned not to sell it off to move on debt. Disney can afford it, right? So instead of like the short-term profits, they're gonna keep it until it dies out. I think it's gonna be like the way of the newspaper, books. They're still gonna be linear, but it's gonna be like more of a niche product, more than what we see now with streaming. But they do still produce a lot of ad dollars for them, so there's no reason not to double dip. And they make a lot of deals, like he mentioned, where you can actually get streaming as well on top of than linear networks, right? They have deals with the companies, right, where they bundle Disney. You get Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN at the ad version for free included in there. So
Well,
it's a win-win for Disney, and Disney doesn't need it for the debt. Unlike Warner Brothers, they stated that Warner Brothers is going to spin off, and Warner Brothers is going to spin off their networks and put their debt there. Disney doesn't need to do that. Disney can pay off their debt.
yeah. Yeah, Warner Brothers, I don't know what they're doing over there. It's crazy. It's sad to watch, actually, because I really do I like Warner Brothers a whole lot, and I just think that David Zaslav has been terrible running that company.
Program them seamlessly. We manage them in one organization, and so there's been great economies of scale in doing that. We also aggregate audiences for marketing purposes, and so what we've determined
and also
is the
just want to say
combination
one
of
thing.
both
Sure.
is actually.
It doesn't cost Disney any more money to put the content on linear because they already produced it for streaming. They're double dipping. So they're making twice as much money. Not twice, because linear is not as much, but they're making money off those content.
Right.
So
Yeah.
when they produce it for Hulu, right? Even for just Disney Plus streaming service, right? Sometimes you see those shows show up on Disney Channel. And people still watch it around the world. I don't, but I'm already past that. I cut the cable, the cord, right? And I'm all full streaming right now, and just with internet.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Actually a winning combination for us. It's one of the things that's enabled us to turn the streaming business around from a huge loss to profitability. And over the next several years, it will enable us to grow margins significantly on the streaming side because, again, the ability to amortize program costs and the ability to essentially aggregate audiences and revenue. So we're pleased with the direction we're going. Look, it's also interesting to us that as many others exit that business, I think it gives us a stronger hand to stay in that business.
Oh, that's a good
We're very
point.
Focused. We will have.
I haven't thought about that. That's a good point that Bob made there, where it's like as they're exiting, it kind of gives them more of a foothold. What are your thoughts on that, Seymour?
I understand it completely. When you see these deals, right, being made, and then there's like a blackout period for Disney, right? You only hear it for Disney. I don't hear it for any other network because they don't have the pull through to do it anymore. They don't have it, and that's why they're spinning it off and putting debt towards it because they don't have the moat that Disney has. Disney here, they can. Now with the people now spinning it off, now they're now the top dog with linear, especially with sports, right? With ESPN and then their FX network, especially FX. That's like their HBO, but for Disney. Back then Fox, but yeah, like those are top tier quality content that you get, and were you going to get that from anyone else? But that's actually why Warner Brothers, when they're spinning off their company, they're keeping HBO because they know that's still value for them when they do it on linear because people still subscribe to HBO, and not just in the US but worldwide. I used to work for a company called Rogers, and we would have HBO come in all the time and advertise their channel that you can get on cable, and they give us free merch and stuff. But then that got rebranded. But the HBO was there, and it's huge because people still subscribe to HBO.
Yeah, interesting.
Interestingly enough, a linear television business that's paired with a streaming business. So when you think about it, these spin-off companies won't have the assets from a streaming perspective that we will have.
No,
again, I think
that's right. But they're separating
advantage.
out. Yeah, they're separating out to get a higher multiple, perhaps, on what they call now the growth part of their business. I mean, one differentiation.
That is also one point. How I mentioned that they already created content for streaming, and you could just put it on these networks. When you spin off the company, those networks will now have to license off the studios. So for Cartoon Network television channel, they have to now license the content that was made for Cartoon Network from Warner Brothers. That's a very odd thing to do. And then they have to pay Warner Brothers for those licenses. Like it's very weird. Think about that. Yeah.
It is weird.
But with Disney, you don't have to do that because they already own the content. They own the studios. They own everything, right? So
exactly, it's more in-house, 100%.
Between you and Warner Brothers, though, is you have ABC. You do have a network. Interestingly, Comcast chose not to include NBC with Versant. You know, I wonder, because at the time you were referring to our conversation a couple of years back, it seemed that even ABC you were considering, you know, potentially saying so long to. Is there a lot more value in a broadcast network, perhaps, that you'd perceived previously?
Well, I think there's a lot more value in a broadcast network, again, if it's paired very, very seamlessly with
Let me ask you this, Seymour, because Dana Walden is very connected to the ABC thing too, right? Is there a Dana Walden angle to this at all, you think?
Yeah, because, you know, just like Bob Iger coming from ABC, Dana Walden came from Fox.
Yeah.
And I think she understands coming from linear and going forward, general entertainment. And yeah, this is the path that for somebody who would understand it, hopefully you don't get a park person for CEO, but like, hopefully. I don't know. I don't understand how they would understand any of this complex of should we keep like, but with even Bob Iger saying before that he thought about spinning it off, but didn't, how are you going to make these complex decisions? That, we're going to keep linear networks because it provides synergy in products that we already produce. And we're going to keep our ad dollars and be the top dog for linear where everyone else is spinning off. Like, I don't think Bob Chapek tried, but if we get someone else that does parks as a CEO, I don't think they would be able to make those decisions unless you had a previous past working in media. And Dana Walden did.
No, yes, absolutely. She has a huge history in media and entertainment. And look, this is the thing. I've been saying the same thing, Seymour. It worries me a great deal to have Josh D'Amaro running this company. He seems like a decent dude. You know, he's improving with the park stuff. He is. But can he navigate these waters? I mean, yeah, you can train the guy for a year or whatever it is, you know, in the lead up to him taking the role. But is that going to be the same as like a Dana Walden who's had years and years and years of experience in the trenches doing this? No, not even close. And right now, the studio side, the streaming side, all this stuff, the film side, it's very volatile. You know, it's very, we're on shaky ground right now. And to have a park person come in now and try to navigate those waters, it makes me nervous. And Disney is a studio first. I don't care. I know some people think it's a theme park company. It is not a theme park company. The studio is the heart of the entire flywheel. If you don't have the studio and the TV side and all that, making the content, making the new IP, you don't have anything to put in your theme parks. It's literally the heartbeat of the whole thing. And I mean, even when Iger came back into the company, he said that it was imperative to get the studio and the animation up to par again, because Disney, that fueled the theme parks and everything. And it's like, I mean, Roy Disney, the nephew, said that, it's the heartbeat of the company. He said that years ago. So you need the studio stuff to really be running on all cylinders, and then to have D'Amaro come in there and kind of learn as he goes.
Yeah,
it worries me big time, bro. It really does. Now, if it's a Josh Dana co-CEO thing, that's a whole nother story. But for him just to get up there and do it on his own, it makes me nervous. Go ahead, Seymour.
And it also makes me nervous that if Dana Walden is not CEO, she could leave.
Right. That's the other thing. That's
what happened to Kevin Meyer. Yeah. He left. He thought he was going to be CEO, but then Bob Chapek. I think there was an interview that I was watching where he talked about how that was one of the main reasons he kept staying on. He's like, there were signs that I'm going to become a CEO. They put me on Disney Plus. They put me on a lot of the future for Disney, and I thought it was a test to become the CEO, but then it never happened. So then he left. And then he left. We became the CEO of TikTok for 6 months.
Yeah, for 6 months, exactly. Well, and that's the thing. That's the risk too. And these executives, they're not going to stick around if they don't feel there's a way up to the top.
Yeah.
I mean, if Josh doesn't get the job, he'll probably leave. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, yeah, that's the risk. And I know Bob Iger holds a lot of respect for Dana Walden. I think he likes her a great deal. And I don't know, man. It makes me really nervous. I have nothing against Josh, but I think we need a studio person in the room. And if you want to do the co-CEO thing, I'm cool with that. If you want to make Josh the CEO and you bring back the president position and give that position to Dana, I would be okay with that. But just to have Josh running the show all on his own, like, I don't know, man. Go ahead.
There is some reason too why like they are considering Josh. In my opinion, it's because they're moving forward with like more experiences in the digital aspects, right? And the metaverse, I guess you used to call it, but now that term is outdated. Nobody says metaverse anymore. But like you see the collaboration with Epic and Disney, that's going to be all in the experience side, and that's going to be all Josh.
Sure.
And that is going to be a huge thing for Disney going forward, because it's also going to be like a big flywheel where you can do everything Disney all in one place.
Right.
You want to watch streaming, you want to watch Disney Plus with your friends, you go on there. You just like Fortnite, you watch it with your friends. You go in a virtual movie theater, and you can watch it with your friends. You can experience it. You go in the background. If you're watching Lion King, you put the background of Lion King. You experience it together. It's gonna be a weird experience, but also fun. But that could be very valuable for Disney. And you're starting to see like a lot of the skins for Fortnite coming from Disney, because they're implanting a lot of the seeds for that collaboration to come out.
Right.
And yeah, that's Josh, all Josh.
That's
and
true.
if that's another sector, just like streaming, that could be another holds, like where it's like, oh, it's not just theme parks anymore and cruises. You got this part where people will say gaming, metaverse, but like this in between from like streaming and theme parks, that will be part of the experience.
Yeah.
But
No, well,
I still think though, yeah, you would need somebody from the media side, especially how big streaming is becoming, and you want to put that growth beyond what we have now, right? They need to expand their margins, and I don't think somebody at the parks will understand the quality that needs to make, the money that it takes to make, right? Especially on the general entertainment side. You just bought Hulu. You want to put somebody in parks to decide what to do for that?
Oh, man. Yeah, exactly.
The streaming business. And when you think about our core networks, obviously ESPN is a big one. That will be connected, obviously, fully with ESPN's digital offering. Disney Channel is connected seamlessly with Disney Plus. FX and ABC have fed Hulu programming very effectively. And now when you think about all four, and we also have Nat Geo, which does the same with Disney Plus, when you think about those 5 networks and how they're programmed across linear and streaming, you've got a business that actually provides us an opportunity to not only grow, but to grow margins in the process as well. So again, we like the direction we're going. We like the fact that we're one of the few that is doing this, because I think it sets us up to be even more competitive in a marketplace that's becoming even more fragmented.
Yeah, well said. Okay, cool. So awesome. Great stuff here great interview from CNBC, the John Campea stuff, really interesting. Oh, hold on one second. I do apologize. Let me just close that out. Okay. So Seymour, any final thoughts before we get out of here? A lot of interesting stuff today.
Bob Iger's back.
He's
I
back,
just
baby.
gotta pull out my yes man card. But yeah,
and get that book, right? Get that book, everybody.
That was a great interview, because the past interviews, it felt like CNBC was taking control, giving them like, they're like, a few people on X would call CNBC snakes because they do Disney dirty, but perhaps now, because they're spinning it off, they don't really care anymore. They want to make relationships with other companies to ensure that their money coming in for ad dollars, their sponsorships and all that, right? Even, you saw these companies on the back, they want to make their money. And, if their money's not coming from Comcast anymore, they got to come in from somewhere. So, it's starting to feel more neutral, the reports. But yeah, Bob Iger is back. Hulu's deal is great. Is going to push the streaming service to be one big streaming service. Could be comparable to Netflix. But I think the thing that Disney has is sports. That Netflix is not. And with that in mind, I actually had an idea that I wanted your thought on.
Sure.
Well, what if they because Bob Iger is like, we have Hulu, with general entertainment, then we have Disney, and then we have sports. What if they did a tri CEO instead of like 2 CEOs? You have 3 CEOs.
Oh, that would be crazy.
You have one for parks, you have one for entertainment, then you have one for sports.
Hey, I mean, Disney's a big company, right? And maybe you have to go that route. Maybe you have to do 2 or 3. That would be interesting. Like, because right now in the internal candidate field, we have Alan Bergman, right? He's on the film side. We have Pitaro, who's on ESPN. We have Daddy Josh Giamaro on Parks, and Dana Walden, who's doing the TV stuff, entertainment stuff. So what if like they have like a tri CEO thing where you have like Pitaro, Josh, and like Dana Walden, right? Like you take like the top like internal candidates and you just all have them kind of run the company. That's interesting, Seymour. Maybe they'll just. I want Disney to think outside the box. That's what I want. I don't want them to play it safe with this. I think they have to shake things up a little bit with this CEO move.
Yeah,
I think
I agree.
Yeah.
I think. Sorry, I was just gonna say I think Disney was too big for Bob Chapek. The
100%.
unfortunate part, I think the media side was too big for him. He understood the parks, but the unfortunate part was that it was just too big for him. If he had somebody on the media side, like let's say like a Kevin Meyer, where he could be, 2 co-CEOs, right? That would have been perfect, because at least that way you come together as one, you have a meeting and you make a plan together. You have,
Yes.
2 heads are better than one. And, you got your parks and then you got your media side ideas, and but if you just get a parks guy, I don't think that's going to work.
That makes me nervous.
No.
I got to be honest. That makes me nervous. Any chance with the Coco Melon deal that Tom Staggs and Meyer are still in the running, or you think that ship has sailed?
Oh yeah, we got to talk about that because we didn't. Yeah,
Let's discuss that. I forgot to, but let's talk about that.
Because Sesame Street is going on Netflix, and Warner Brothers lost that, and then Disney gained the Coco Melon, which is interesting because that's like a first, because Disney doesn't usually license, doesn't get content from other people unless it's really like popular or needed, right? They tried to do that with Doctor Who, but unfortunately the views are not there. And the big rumor is that they canceled it. They're going to get canceled from Disney and they're going to move to another network. Unfortunately, a lot of fans are devastated. But with Bluey, it did amazing, right? And they're good friends, so they might have talked about it and said, let's get a deal made. They probably thought, oh, Netflix is don't want Coco Melon anymore. How about we go to your place? We're already familiar with Disney Plus,
right?
And I don't think they're going to be CEOs. They already talked about it, how they're not in the running. They're not even thought about. They were consultants though for that, though, for the new CEO. Bob Iger asked them to come and help, right?
Yeah. No, he did. Yeah, and to help out consulting with the TV side too, I think too. So yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to be unless they buy out Candle Media.
Yeah. If they buy Candle,
yeah,
for sure.
Because it's like now their own like baby. They don't want to ruin it now by getting it becoming CEO and then leave someone else it, unless they own it and put it into Disney, right?
Right. Yeah, we'll see. Crazy stuff, man.
Perhaps that's the next test. Maybe they see, Coco Melon doing well. Let's bring in Candle Media and bring more stuff. I don't know.
It's possible. It's absolutely possible. Mr. Seymour Duck, it is always an honor and a privilege to have you on the show, brother. I do appreciate you. I love nerding out with you. If you could remind everybody where they can find you on social media, Mr. Duck.
Yeah, you can find me on X at Mr. Seymour Duck, or my website, mrduck.social.
There he is. Everybody follow Mr. Seymour Duck. Comment down below with all your thoughts on everything we talked about today in terms of the Warner Brothers stuff, in terms of the Hulu stuff, in terms of the Coco Melon stuff, the CEO race, all that good stuff. We would love to hear from you. And until the next time, see you.
Thank you for watching OG55. If you aren't already, consider becoming a member today.